Whoever marries you will be the luckiest man alive. The warm Wyoming sun stretched across the valley as Daniel Carter sat on the wooden porch of his family's ranch. The air smelled of fresh hay, wildflowers, and clean mountain wind. Horses grazed quietly beyond the fence while birds sang from the cottonwood trees. It was a peaceful morning, yet Daniel's heart felt anything but peaceful. Across the yard, Emily Harper knelt beside a large galvanized wash tub, gently scrubbing clothes. Loose strands of golden hair escaped from her messy bun as she laughed softly at something one of the ranch hands had said. Every time she smiled, Daniel found himself smiling too. He had known Emily for almost 8 years. She had arrived in town after losing both of her parents during a harsh winter. The Carter family had given her a place to stay until she found work, but somehow she had become part of their lives. She worked hard, cared for everyone, and filled every room with kindness. Daniel loved her. He had loved her quietly for years. But fear had always been stronger than courage. He worried that confessing his feelings might destroy the beautiful friendship they shared. So he remained silent. One afternoon, while Emily hung freshly washed clothes on a line, Daniel finally walked over. "You've worked enough for today," he said. She smiled without looking back. "And let you do all the work?" "Never." Daniel laughed. "I wasn't offering because of the work." She turned toward him. "Oh, I just thought you deserved a break." Emily's cheeks turned slightly pink. "That's sweet." For a long moment neither of them spoke. The wind carried the scent of pine trees from the nearby hills. Finally Daniel cleared his throat. "You know." She looked at him. "Whoever marries you will be the luckiest man alive." Emily froze. The cloth she had been holding slipped from her hands into the grass. Her smile faded into something deeper, something almost heartbreaking. She lowered her eyes before whispering, "I hoped it was you." Daniel felt the entire world stop. The horses, the wind, even the birds seemed to fall silent. "What?" Emily slowly looked back at him. "I've loved you for years, Daniel." His heart pounded. "I waited." She swallowed. "I thought one day you'd tell me how you felt." 1,000 emotions rushed through Daniel all at once. Joy, shock, regret, hope. Without thinking, he stepped closer. "I was afraid." Emily smiled sadly. "So was I." He gently took her hand. "I've loved you since the day you walked into this ranch carrying that tiny suitcase." Tears filled her eyes. "I thought you only saw me as family. I tried to convince myself that was enough." It wasn't. Emily laughed through her tears. "You really are stubborn. I learned from my father." She smiled. "And I stayed because of you." Daniel finally wrapped his arms around her. For years they had dreamed of this moment without ever speaking a word. Now silence was no longer necessary. The months that followed became the happiest either of them had ever known. They worked together from sunrise until sunset. They repaired fences, fed horses, collected eggs, shared dinners beneath glowing lanterns. Every evening they watched the mountains turn golden as the sun disappeared behind the peaks. Simple moments became unforgettable memories. One rainy afternoon Daniel surprised Emily by taking her to a quiet hill overlooking the ranch. He carried an old wooden box. Emily looked puzzled. "What's inside?" "My future." He opened it. Inside rested his mother's engagement ring. It wasn't large. It wasn't expensive. But it had belonged to the woman who had taught him what real love looked like. Daniel took a deep breath before kneeling. "Emily Harper." She immediately covered her mouth. "I spent years afraid of losing you. I don't want to spend another day without calling you my wife. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down her face. She laughed and cried at the same time. "Yes. Yes. 1,000 times yes." Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger. She threw her arms around him. Above them, Thunder rolled across the mountains as gentle rain began to fall. Neither of them cared. It felt like heaven itself was celebrating. Their wedding took place beneath an enormous oak tree near the ranch. Friends traveled from neighboring towns. Cowboys cleaned their boots for the occasion. Children scattered wildflowers along the aisle. Emily wore a simple ivory dress sewn by women from the church. Daniel couldn't stop smiling. When she reached him, he whispered, "You are even more beautiful than I imagined." She grinned. "And you're still the nervous rancher I fell in love with." Everyone laughed. The preacher asked them to exchange vows. Daniel looked into Emily's eyes. "I promise to choose you every morning. To protect your heart. To laugh with you. To grow old beside you." Emily squeezed his hands. "I promise to stand beside you through every storm. When life is easy. When life is difficult. When we're young. And when our hair turns gray. I'll always love you." They kissed as the entire valley erupted in cheers. Years passed. Their ranch flourished. Together they raised 3 children who inherited Emily's kindness and Daniel's determination. The family gathered every evening on the same porch where Daniel had once watched Emily washing clothes. Sometimes their children asked how their love story began. Emily would smile before looking at Daniel. "You tell it." Daniel always laughed. "I told her whoever married her would be the luckiest man alive." Their children would grin. And then, Emily would finish the story herself. "I whispered. I hoped it was you." Daniel would reach for her hand every single time. Even after decades of marriage, he never let go. One evening, as the sun painted the Wyoming sky with shades of orange and crimson, they sat together watching their grandchildren play near the old wash tub that still rested beside the barn. Emily leaned her head against Daniel's shoulder. "Do you ever regret waiting so long to tell me?" Daniel smiled gently. "I regret every day I stayed silent." He kissed her forehead. "But I'd live my whole life again if it meant ending up right here with you." Emily looked at the mountains glowing in the fading light. "I think love isn't about finding the perfect moment. It's about finding the person who makes every ordinary day feel extraordinary." Daniel squeezed her hand. "And that's been you." As the stars slowly appeared above the Wyoming sky, they sat together exactly where their story had begun, older, wiser, and still hopelessly in love. Because sometimes, the simplest words can change an entire lifetime. Whoever marries you will be the luckiest man alive. And sometimes, the answer waiting in another heart is simply, "I hoped it was you." Please friends subscribe my channel.